Hey everyone, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. So today I'm going to show you how to change out your regular analog sticks from the RG350 to these low profile analog sticks from Sakura Retro Modding, which is available on Etsy. So I bought these, they actually shipped from France, took a couple weeks to get here, but I'm really happy with them, so I'll show you this video on how to do that. On top of that, I bought some extra face buttons, and I'll show you how to change those out as well. So to start, we're just going to open up the back. There's just 4 screws here, so open them up, make sure you keep track of your screws, but nothing big about this. Okay, to get the back off, you have to kind of pry it off with your fingernails. You could use a little plastic spudger as well, but it actually comes off pretty easily. You just kind of have to push in and then pull it up a little bit, and it just comes right off. So be a little careful when you pull it off because the battery cable will still be attached to it. So this is what it looks like inside. So number one thing that you're probably going to want to do when you take apart your RG350 is to find your SD card. So you can see it up there in the top left. I'm going to pull off the shoulder buttons real quick. Those come off really easily, so it's better just to take them off yourself. That way they don't start flying around. And you just kind of pull them straight off. It's probably the easiest thing to take off of this thing. And then here is the battery cable, so you just want to pull that out. It's a little clip. You pull that out and put it aside. You don't have to actually pull it out for this mod, but it just makes it easier so it's not in your way. Okay, and there's the SD card right there. So if you ever need to get into your internal SD card, that's where it is. Pretty easy. You can see I swapped mine out for an 8 GB one. Now we're going to take off the analog sticks themselves. So the biggest thing to remember about all of this is that any of the screws that have a white circle around them, those are the ones you want to remove. So here we're going to remove these 4, which is going to pull off that analog stick. And it's connected by a little ribbon right there. You can just pull it off gently. And then all you do is you just pop it right out. You can see it's just like a little metal piece that holds it in place with a little hole. So all you have to do then is just push the other one on. Now these are a little tricky because they need to be rotated a little bit till you find the right fit. So just kind of move it around a little. You really can't break it, and just find that right spot and then just pop it in. You'll know when it goes in. See how it goes far in like that? It's pretty easy to do. So you can turn it around, have a look, and yeah, get a feel for it. Just kind of hold it in your finger, and yeah, I really love these. They look a little weird, like you don't think they're going to work very well, but you put them in and you just play around with it for 1 second with your thumb, and you're like, oh yeah, this is much better. So let's do the other one. Okay, and same process here. You just want to pull it out. Just give it a little bit of pressure and it'll pop right off. And then same thing, just push it in. And again, you want to rotate it till you find that right spot. Okay, so if all you were doing is changing out your analog sticks, you'd be done. All you have to do is just put the screws back in, put the battery cable back in, put the shoulder buttons on, and then wrap it all up. But I'm going to show you how to do the face buttons next. So if you look, the first thing you want to do is those bottom buttons. They tend to fall out and then they get all over the place. So what I like to do is just put a piece of tape along the bottom, and that'll allow you to kind of hold them in place. And you just kind of push on the buttons real hard and kind of get them really stuck onto that tape. This is just an extra thing to do, but it really is very helpful. Okay, so next we're going to remove the board from the actual unit itself. So again, you want the screws that have the white circle around them, so you just take off the remaining screws. And there's only 6 of these altogether, 3 on each side. Sometimes they kind of fall into the case when you finish pulling them out. It's fine. Just kind of, I like to just flip it over and let them kind of fall out, but however you want to do it is fine. Okay, so we've got the 8 screws from the analog sticks and the 6 from the board itself, and really they're the same screws, so you don't have to worry about if they get mixed up or whatever. But you'll see I have a little orange button that came off, and I'll show you where that is here in a second. So you pull the board off from the top, and you pull that top part off, it slides right off, and you can see that I lost my start and select buttons. And those you can also tape on the front if you want. I find that they're really easy to kind of put in place, so I don't even worry about it. I just put them back in when I do it. So that's it. You pull off this little rubber plastic thing, and then you can swap out your buttons. So I'm not actually going to swap out any buttons because I like my black ones, but I want to show you kind of how they work. So you see here, it has these 3 kind of prongs on each end of it. 2 of the prongs are thinner, and 1 is a thicker prong. So when you put it in, you want to make sure that the thicker prong, which is that top one there, goes into the slot that's the thickest, and it allows you to make sure that, for example, if your buttons have like a letter on them, A, B, X, Y, it allows them to make sure they stay upright in the right position. Now, however you want to put the colors is up to you, obviously. You can go and look up the old Super Nintendo on the British side and see how they have their colors set up, and you can put it in that way. You know, really whatever floats your boat. But that's basically it. You pop one out, you put the next one in. You can see here's the second one here. This one's a little more translucent, so you could pop that one in as well. I've played around with all of these buttons. I've had them in my unit, but at the end of the day, because I have all that orange trim around mine, I like to have the black buttons just because it's too much color if I put the colored buttons in. And that's it. So now let's just put it back together. It's pretty easy. We're just really going to focus on putting back the face button parts first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So we'll put in the start and select buttons. Like I said, you can tape the front of this if you want, or you can just kind of wing it like I'm doing here. Okay, and then you want to put this little rubber mesh thing back onto it. Now, this one's always a little tricky because you have to push it in. There's those 4 holes along the corners. You need to push them into the little slots there. And it just takes a second, and just make sure you have it right. If you mess it up, it's really not going to harm anything. You can just pull it off and do it again. There's really no way to screw this one up. Okay, so then you want to slide this part on first. And just make sure it arranges with the holes, you know, make sure the headphone jack's where it needs to be. And then this is the moment of truth. You basically just want to pop it in right there. And if when you pop it in, it feels nice and snug inside there, then you're probably good to go. You know, make sure you have your start and select buttons good to go. And at that point, you can just start screwing everything back in. When I screw things back in, because of the analog sticks and I want to make sure it's nice and flush, I usually take my roll of masking tape and put it on the bottom. That way it's a little bit elevated while I'm doing the screwing. It's up to you however you want to do that. I just like to do my own janky, resourceful way. Okay, and after you have the board in, it's just the same procedure here. You're just going to put the analog sticks in and just make sure it's nice and well set before you start screwing it in. I like to do opposite corners, but however you want to do it in order to tighten it in, it's all up to you. Okay, so we've got the board in, we've got the analog sticks in, so everything's looking pretty good. It feels kind of firm and snug. So now let's put on the board and the shoulder buttons. Okay, so everything's looking good. Let's go ahead and put the battery cable in. So one word of warning with this, as soon as you plug the battery cable in, your unit is going to power up. So usually I just flip it over and then just navigate right to power off and then turn it back off. Okay, so now that the power is off, let's go ahead and add the shoulder buttons in. And these, you know, you can just verify that, make sure the R1 is in the correct one. And yeah, it's pretty easy. So you put that in, put the R2 in. You just slide them in. There's those little notches inside. There's the orange notch, and it goes inside the little black hole. And to be honest, these shoulder buttons are a little finicky. They're kind of the weakest part of the whole unit, and you can probably feel that when you push on the shoulder buttons. They just don't feel great, and I really don't like the way this mechanism's set up, but this is how you put it back together. Until they have better buttons, this is what we have to deal with. Okay, so you just fit the case back on. I like to push the battery cable over to make sure it's okay, and then you can actually just pop it back on. It just kind of snaps a little bit in place. It's not going to be totally set into place, but it's going to feel a little bit firm, so this is a good time to kind of check your buttons, make sure everything feels okay, feels right, before you screw it in, just because it's a pain in the butt to have to unscrew and rescrew and all that stuff. And same thing, I like to put it on the masking tape, and then I just screw it all back in. Okay, and that's it. That's a fully functioning low-profile analog stick for my RG350, and obviously if I had changed the face buttons, I would have new face buttons here as well. But it's very simple, very easy. You know, you can do it in under 10 minutes, really. And I just wanted to show you just real quick how it works. I hope this was helpful. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked it, and leave a comment if you have any questions below. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Happy gaming.